Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. Is there a two-tiered system of justice? Attorney General Merrick Garland doesn't think so. He defended the DOJ today at a hearing on Capitol Hill. And NTD's legal correspondent Arlene Richards got reaction from lawmakers.
At a hearing Wednesday, a special committee led by Republicans set out to get answers to questions about the weaponization of the Department of Justice, questions about investigations of former President Trump, Hunter Biden, and Catholic churches. Attorney General Merrick Garland defending the department and maintaining that all investigations are conducted fairly and equally.
With liberty and
Chairman Jim Jordan expressing concerns about the fairness of the Hunter Biden investigation.
4.5 years, the Department of Justice has been investigating Mr. Biden, an investigation run by David Weiss, an investigation that limited the number of witnesses agents could interview, an investigation that prohibited agents from referring to the president as the, quote, big guy in any of the interviews they did get to do.
He accused the DOJ of protecting Hunter Biden, but attacking former President Trump.
Look at the classified documents case. Spring and early summer of last year, the Department of Justice asked President Trump to turn over boxes of documents. He does just that. In the process, President Trump finds 38 additional documents. He tells the Department of Justice, the very next day the FBI comes to his home and he turns them over. Everything they asked him to do, he did. And then what's the Justice Department do? August 8th, last year, they raid President Trump's home.
Other Republican lawmakers had similar questions.
They see the DOJ, of course, aggressively prosecuting President Biden's chief political rival, Mr. Trump, while at the same time, they see slow walking and special treatment given to the president's son. Why has the Justice Department dragged this investigation out for so long?
Mr. Weiss was a long-time career prosecutor. President Trump appointed him as the...
You're not answering the question. Is that standard procedure? Should it take that long to make such a simple determination?
Garland maintained that Trump-appointed AG David Weiss had full authority to investigate Hunter Biden, and that he had not questioned Weiss on how that was being done. Meanwhile, Democrat lawmakers are saying this.
Mr. Jordan, who has evaded the subpoena for 500 days, has the nerve to have this committee hearing, whose sole purpose is to defend Donald Trump and to cast aspersions on the investigation of Donald Trump by the Justice Department.
Representative Jeff Van Drew called attention to agents investigating Catholic churches.
Yes the idea that someone with my family background would discriminate against any religion is so outrageous, so absurd.
Mr. Attorney General, it was your FBI that did this.
Some Democrat lawmakers applauded Garland and the DOJ.
Well, there is no doubt that the Department of Justice under General Garland has the ultimate of integrity. There is no political bias, no bias toward anyone because of their power or their wealth.
At the end of the day, if you hear him very carefully, what he's saying is nobody in this country is above the law.
Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Some common ground amid differences. President Biden meeting with Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu as the two vow to work together for greater peace in the Middle East. NTD's Iris Tao brings us more from the White House.
President Biden says U.S. commitment to Israel remains ironclad despite the differences he has with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Because even where we have some differences, my commitment to Israel, as you know, is ironclad. I think without Israel, there's not a Jew in the world that's secure.
Biden previously criticized Netanyahu's right-wing government as extremist. But today, the two leaders meeting on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York try to find common ground, including by vowing to work together toward normalizing relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
This is something within our reach. By working together, we can confront those forces that threaten that future, none more so than Iran.
Netanyahu says such an agreement will help to end conflict among Israel, Arab states, and the Palestinians. And the Biden administration says such a mega deal would help to stabilize the Middle East.
We can make history.
Together.
Together.
Yeah.
Biden today also met with Brazilian President Lula, who just recently criticized the Biden administration over its sanctions targeting Cuba and military aid sent to Ukraine. But Biden and Lula today vowed to work together on promoting workers' rights.
They'll build the infrastructure we need to keep our economy strong. So we have to empower them as well.
And as Biden's UN trip draws to an end, Biden says he looks forward to hosting Netanyahu later this year here at the White House. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Presiding over the Senate in shorts instead of a suit and tie. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman today back on the Senate floor after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer ditched the enduring tradition. NTD's Ariane Pazdar has more.
No suit for U.S. Senator John Fetterman on Wednesday. The Pennsylvania senator presided over the Senate for the first time since the Senate ditched its dress code. Earlier this week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer decided to stop enforcing the dress code, saying senators are able to choose what they wear on the Senate floor. Fetterman is known for sporting hoodies and shorts. For that reason, he previously had to participate in Senate votes by standing at the door. On Wednesday, Fetterman commented on his infamous attire, saying, "If those in the House stop trying to shut our government down and fully support Ukraine, then I will save democracy by wearing a suit on the Senate floor next week." Florida Governor Ron DeSantis commented on Fetterman's attire earlier this week.
To show up in the United States Senate with that and not have the decency to put on proper attire, I think it's disrespectful to the body. We need to be lifting up our standards in this country, not dumbing down our standards in this country.
In response to ditching the dress code, 46 senators sent a letter to Schumer, writing, "The Senate is a place of honor and tradition. The world watches us on that floor, and we must protect the sanctity of that place at all costs. Allowing casual clothing on the Senate floor disrespects the institution we serve and the American families we represent." As you can see in this clip, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy also criticized the rule change. Watch.
Less than 13,000 people have ever given the privilege of being a member of Congress. You're a U.S. Senator for an entire state, but you're going to change all of the Senate rules simply so someone can wear gym clothes onto the floor? I don't know that they'd let them wear gym clothes into other places of work.
And Maine Senator Susan Collins joked Monday that she might wear a bikini on the Senate floor from now on. And Fetterman defended his attire, telling CNN there are much more important kinds of issues we should be addressing, instead of how I dress like a bum. The senator also started selling related merchandise, like this piece, which reads, "I vote in this hoodie." The Senate's dress code was informal before Schumer dismantled it. And staffers of senators still have to wear suits on the Senate floor. Ariane Pazdar, NTD News.
What do we make of the auto workers' strike taking place right now in Michigan? This is auto workers threatening to expand its strike if no significant progress is made by Friday. Joining us now to share his thoughts, we have a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and fellow at Northwestern University, Mark Mills. Mark Mills, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to join. Thank you.
How do you interpret the UAW strike in the context of ESG permeating both policy on the federal level and the private sector?
You know, the UAW, we're told, is fighting the electrification metric, right? The idea that EVs require less labor and therefore they ought to, get in the game right now before. And first, just two things here. The amount of money the government is throwing at electrification of transportation is epic, unprecedented in history. I can understand why they want a piece of the action. It's a really bad idea for the government to spend this amount of money. The UAW is right about one thing. The jobs are being created by the ESG-driven metrics to electrify cars. There are more jobs, but they're jobs that are being exported, largely to China, Africa, South America, some in Canada, Australia. So it's not that EVs, which everybody wants, require less labor. They require more labor, in fact, ironically. It's just that the labor's elsewhere.
To your point, do you believe that the transition to EVs is actually causing more harm than good for workers in, not just traditional auto industries, but elsewhere?
It's causing more harm than good for everybody. So it's not just for auto workers because of the disruption in the market. Again, it's not because there's fewer jobs to make EVs. Overall, Tesla employs as many people as the overall auto industry does to produce the same number of cars, ironically. It's because there are different jobs shifted elsewhere. It's not doing things for the environment people think. It's involving massive increases of mining overseas and refining of minerals in China. And even the carbon dioxide emissions, which are the ostensible purpose of pushing EVs, don't go down significantly, if at all, if you count the energy and emissions from making the materials to make EVs. The batteries are massive half-ton collections of minerals that are mined all over the world and, again, refined mainly in China on coal-fired grids. So it's actually a pretty bad deal. EVs are nice cars, and I'm happy that wealthy people want to buy them. But mandating and pushing them and subsidizing them is a really bad deal, not just for the UAW, but for consumers and citizens everywhere.
And to that point, so do you think that the push for climate initiatives does risk creating a larger socioeconomic divide between workers in traditional industries and those in emerging sectors?
It does, because it shifts who's getting the money. So overall, the push for changing the energy systems of the world is increasing the costs of energy, but it also shifts who's getting the money. Which businesses, which workers, which countries. So again, that's where the disruption is coming from. It's a net bad thing because of increase in costs. It's also a disruptive thing in terms of who gets the money. So it's an old adage, right? Follow the money. Find out where all this money is going from our taxpayers. And a lot of it's going overseas to labor there. Look, I'm happy to employ African miners and Chinese laborers, I guess, in a philosophical sense, but not with taxpayers' money. And that's really what's going on. It's really a bad idea.
I'll tell you, that old adage rings true in Washington for sure.
That's for sure.
I mean, your thoughts when it comes to the UAW strike, is it possibly a harbinger of future labor conflicts as industries transition to trying to chase this climate goal?
Well, of course, chasing the climate goal, again, as you know, is about changing our energy systems, what kind of power plants we built and where they're built, and the materials needed to build it. So yeah, it is. It's a harbinger of a couple things. One is the pushing for a transition, because let's be clear, there isn't one that's happening. Only a few percent of America's energy comes from wind and solar power. So it's a very small share still. A lot of money being pushed at it, but still a very small share. As we push it, it really disrupts labor markets, which causes a disruption. And it's also shifting the sort of structure of how we think about compensating people. And this is an issue which I think I'm in solidarity with the UAW on. I think most labor-related jobs, that is, skilled trades, are probably underpaid in America across the board. I mean, I'm very sympathetic to that notion, and I think that the sort of the aging out of the skilled trades, which is already happening, actually promises rising wages over time. I know they're kind of trying to rush it at the UAW. I get what they're about. But the reality is a shortage of people with skilled labor will mean one of two things. We pay people more to go to those trades as young people in America, or we let those jobs go overseas. And that's kind of the choice. And I think a lot of it will be, over time, rising wages for people without college degrees in the skilled trades. So that's a long-term picture. In the short term, the UAW strike is really a symptom of government intervention distorting markets in a profound way.
Mark Mills, thank you so much for joining us. Fascinating perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.